Spring sports are heading into the home stretch.
Women's lacrosse needed a big week and some help to hold on to their playoff spot. Did they get it?
The softball and baseball teams played a combined 11 games since our last show, but how many did the Bobcats win?
And we sat down with women's basketball assistant coach Brian Wilson.
We've got a jam-packed 30 minutes of Quinnipiac sports highlights with a few surprises too. Get comfortable. Sports Paws starts now. Glad you could join us here inside Studio 125 for Sports Paws tonight. I'm Tom Krosnowski.
I'm Will Fowler. Tom, you tell me every day, and you emphasize that you love to have fun. You ready to have some fun tonight?
I can't think of anything more fun to spending my Monday night on the desk with you talking about some Sports Paws. Let's get started, huh? So let's start off with the women's lacrosse team. The Bobcats entered the week tied for 6th in the MAAC, barely clinging to a playoff spot. Would a midweek game against Siena throw off the Bobcats' momentum, or did the Bobcats continue their push to the playoffs? Roll the footage. Women's lacrosse was looking to redeem themselves in Wednesday's matchup against Siena after they gave up a 9-goal lead against Niagara 4 days prior. We're going to pick this up in the first half scoreless. Siena's Annie Brennan started the game quick, scoring off the opening draw to give the Saints an early 1-0 lead. Score now 2-0. Senior attacker Allison Kuhn scores her 36th goal of the season on a free position, a new career high for the Quinnipiac leader. Still here, Maddie Deegan ties the game up with a free position snipe, her first of 5 goals on the day. Another one coming right now from Deegan. This one puts the Bobcats up by 2 going into halftime. 5-3 Bobcats going into the half. Second half getting ready to start, but nothing changed for Maddie Deegan. Here she scores her 4th goal of the game to open the second half, scoring a natural hat trick. But the Saints would come back before long. 5 unanswered goals for Siena, including this ripper here from Alexandra Ricos. That makes it behind the back effort there, 9-6 Saints. Despite 5 goals from Deegan, Bobcats just couldn't overcome it. Saints take the win, 11-7. The Bobcats are back in action just 3 days later, traveling to the Big Apple to take on Manhattan College. Despite hat tricks from Allison Kuhn and Megan Swazlowski, the Bobcats just couldn't keep pace with the Jaspers' offensive attack. The Jaspers won 11-9 thanks to a 5-goal performance from Molly Fitzpatrick. The Bobcats made it a 1-goal game with 4 minutes to go, but Fitzpatrick's 5th goal of the day sealed the deal for the Jaspers. Well, let's check out the standings. What did these 2 losses mean for the Bobcats' playoff hopes?
Yeah, Tom, the road to the playoffs certainly got a lot more difficult. Fairfield, Manhattan, Siena, and Monmouth all have clinched their spots in the postseason so far. That leaves 5 teams fighting for 2 spots. Bobcats on the outside looking in right now with 1 game remaining against Monmouth. So there is technically still a path to the playoffs for the Bobcats, but they'll need some help. Marist and Niagara both sit ahead of the Bobcats, and they both have a game in hand.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah, sure.
For more on what Quinnipiac has to do against Monmouth in a winner-go-home game, here's Q30 Women's Lacrosse beat reporter Sean Raggio with his keys to the game.
Thanks, boys. Now, I got 3 keys for Quinnipiac Women's Lacrosse to beat Monmouth closing out its season this upcoming Saturday. And the first one, junior attack, Ashley Babinski. Ashley Babinski, haven't really heard much about her this year. She finished last season with 29 goals and 49 points, starting all 16 games. In 15 games played, none started. She only has 8 goals and 9 total points. There she is. And, you know, head coach Tanya Kotowitz said in a presser to us after a win against LIU Brooklyn, I think we have a more balanced offense and she's fitting in fine. It's just now we don't have to put so much pressure on Ashley. Now, that's all well and good, but at this point in the season when you need to win to have a shot at clinching a playoff spot, you definitely have to step up if you're Ashley Babinski. Now we're going to head on to number 2. It's the goaltending. For the past couple of years, they've been using a 2-goalie system, and it hasn't worked out as much as I would like to see, but I think that the full 60 minutes has to go to graduate student Sammy Walters. She's in the top 5 in the MAAC in goals against average, save percentage, and saves per game. And especially if she's got the hot hand, you got to let her ride with that. Going into number 3, consistency is something that's lacked the Bobcats throughout the season. You know, they've had some success starting the game hot. They came back from a 6-goal deficit against Canisius to win that game, but at the same time, they can't keep it going throughout the entire game. They had as many as 9-goal lead against Niagara on Senior Day, and they ended up losing that game. So the team really has to play a full 60 minutes start to finish in order to have any shot at winning against Monmouth. And honestly, to clinch, they need to win this Saturday, and Niagara needs to lose out the rest of the season. Boys, that's all I got. Sending it back to the desk.
All right, thanks, Sean. Let's head over to the men's side of things now. Quinnipiac was flying high, 3-1 in the conference. They met with Marist on Saturday in the annual Quinnipiac versus Cancer game. Let's take a look at the highlights. Quinnipiac and Marist coming in two complete opposites. QU won 6 of their last 7. Marist lost 2 of their last 3. Both teams are entering 3-1 in conference play. We'll pick it up in the second quarter. This one's tied at 2. It's James Lyons taking the pass. Watch the pass right there. Take a look at this pump fake and the bouncer barred down to finish past Nick DiMuccio to make the score 3-2. 8th goal of the season for Lions. That's the way the game would remain going into the half. We'll take it to the third quarter. QU comes out hot in the second half and regains the lead. Up 4-3. That's Matt Frost scoring his second straight goal here, 3rd on the season. Assist from Foster Cuomo. Bobcats go at 5-3. Later in the third, Marist storms back. They score 4 straight goals. This one by Lions again to complete the hat trick and 10th goal of the season. Just like that, the Red Foxes are back in front with a commanding lead at 7-5 Marist. To the fourth quarter we go. Mike Fletcher ties the game up at 8 with a ripper past Jake McGregor to level the score. 4th goal of the game for Fletcher, 15th on the season, and just like that, we're tied at 8. Later in the fourth, Marist would score 1 quickly in response, and then this one from Jojo Pareka made it a 2-goal game. Nice turnaround goal from Pareka for his second of the game, 17th on the season. Marist goes up 10-8. There was no coming back for the Bobcats. This one ends 10-8 Marist. Concerning news for the Bobcats, Foster Cuomo held scoreless and left early with an injury. Here's interim head coach Mason Polly. What do you have to say after the game?
Yeah, well, we're definitely attack-oriented between Foster, Fletcher, and Thompson. That's our strong point. We try to get the balls in their hands, let them be our decision makers, and penetrate the defense.
So more of the same from the men's team. They dropped this one to Marist and fall to 3-2 in conference play. That ties them with Siena for that 4th and final playoff spot. Tom, that's the bad news. The good news for the Bobcats is that the hardest part of their schedule is now behind them. They still have 2 conference games to play against Monmouth and Manhattan, both of which are below them in the standings. They do also own that tiebreaker against Siena, so their playoff chances still looking good. It's time to take a quick break, but softball had a big slate of games this week. We're going to tell you how they did.
And we'll give you an update on some Quinnipiac alumni who are making waves in Stanley Cup playoffs. Trust me, you don't want to go anywhere. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Welcome to the WQAQ Morning Show. Dan Ball and Emma Spagnolo joining you here from the QAQ studios in Hamden. And Emma, it is that time of year again.
Welcome back to Sports Paws. We're going to head to the Diamond where softball had a big week of games. A week that started at Sacred Heart. The Bobcats played 2 against the Pioneers. The team was riding a 4-game losing streak. They didn't fare much better in Game 1. They lost a close one, 5-4. Game 2, though, was a different story. The Bobcats used a 6-run fourth to snap the 5-game skid head back home with a win in the books. They came home to take on Hartford in a non-conference doubleheader, and game one was all Bobcats. 3 first-inning runs got the Bobcats out to an early lead, and Kendall Brundrett was in cruise control. She went 5 scoreless, allowing just 4 hits and 2 walks. Lauren King came in to slam the door. She threw 2 scoreless innings of her own to complete a shutout for the Bobcats.
After that 6-0 victory, things were looking up for the softball team. The Bobcats jumped out to a 7-1 lead over the Hawks in the second game, but completely collapsed in the late innings. The team gave up 5 runs in the fourth and 3 more in the 7th inning in what became a crushing 9-8 loss. Starter Brooklyn McGuire left early with injury, forcing the Bobcats to rely on their bullpen earlier than expected. It was Quinnipiac's largest blown lead of the season. The team didn't have much time before its next game, though, a MAAC doubleheader against the Siena Saints this past weekend. The Bobcats lost the first game 4-2, despite catcher Lo Yarnell's 2 runs batted in. The Bobcats sent Kendall Brundrett to the mound for game 2, looking to stop the losing skid. Again, Quinnipiac and Siena, game 2 of the doubleheader. We're going to pick this one up in the top of the 3rd inning. Siena at the bat here, Brundrett on the mound, and Madison Kassim homers off Brundrett deep to right field. Siena strikes first. It's a 2-run shot, makes it 2-0 Saints as Kosak takes her time jogging the bases before ultimately being greeted by her teammates at home plate. Now it's the Bobcats' turn at the bat going into the bottom of the 4th. Alexis Otero lines a double into center field to drive in Aaron Larson for the Bobcats' first run of the game. Larson comes around to score there and beats the throw standing up. 2-1 Siena after 4 innings, but that's as close as Quinnipiac would get. Top of the 7th inning. Big play here. Watch this. Amanda Dodson on third base. Pop fly into shallow center. Bridget Douglas comes home firing, and Dodson beats out the throw. Some of the Quinnipiac faithful did not agree with that call, but the run stands, makes it 3-1 Siena. Later in the inning, Nisa Ouellette hits a 3-run homer to left field off of Kendall Brundrett. That basically seals the game for the Saints. Great catch by the fan in left field, too. 7-1 Siena is your final as the Saints jump ahead of the Bobcats in the MAAC standings. Coming off of the Saints sweep, the Bobcats lost some crucial ground in the MAAC playoff hunt. The Bobcats find themselves just a hair out of the playoff picture, tied for 6th with Fairfield. However, the Stags have the tiebreaker, which means that Quinnipiac's season would be over if the season ended today. Luckily for the Bobcats, though, there are still 10 more conference games to be played over the next 2+ weeks.
And for more on the softball team, we welcome Q30 beat reporter Max Schreiber. Max, what's going on, buddy?
Nothing. How you doing, guys?
Doing great. Max, this team was 4-0 in MAAC play not that long ago. So what's the biggest reason behind the recent struggles?
Well, Tom, it has to be their offense. They have 9 batters batting under 250. They have 6 batters batting under 200 and only 2 batters batting over 300. So they have to get production from their offense. In their 6 MAAC losses, they had 3 total runs against Siena this past weekend and 4 runs combined in each game between Monmouth and Fairfield. So when they don't score runs, they don't win. They had 8 runs in just 1 game against Manhattan when they swept that MAAC game. So they have to start swinging the bats better.
So, Max, despite their struggles, what's been one bright spot for you that you've seen from this team so far?
It has to be Erin Larson. Erin Larson came out struggling in the first home opener against Manhattan. She came into the game batting .222, but since has risen her batting average 48 points. She's a really great player. Last year, she was an all-MAAC first-team member. She essentially last year led the offense in every single category for the Bobcats. So when she is swinging the bat well, the entire Quinnipiac offense comes together.
Well, Max, let's get the other side of the coin here. Who's been the most disappointing player this season?
Well, for me, it's Rebecca Drake. Rebecca Drake in 38 games is batting .224. Last year, she batted .227, so she's actually having so far a worse season at the plate than she did last year. And I thought, becoming a junior, she would really take the next step. She has great power. When she swings the bat, the ball pops off of the bat, and I really thought that she was going to use that to her advantage, but she only has 1 home run this season, so she seemed a little lost at the plate. Still has some time to turn it around, but I expected more personally from her this season.
So, Max, when things are all said and done, do you see this as a team that will be playing in the postseason or not?
Well, I'm going to go out on a whim, and I'm going to say that they actually will be in the postseason. Really, we just looked at the standings a moment ago. Between that 5 and 10 spot, really, it's a tight race. Anyone can sneak into the 6th spot in the playoffs. But I think Quinnipiac has a really good record. They've shown that they can do it, and when everything clicks on all cylinders, they have the ability to win any game. When the pitching's doing well, we've seen Kendall Brundrett come alive a little bit, and I think when the pitching and if the offense can get better, then the the ceiling is the roof for this team.
All right, Max, thanks. Great stuff as always.
Thank you, guys.
And to the baseball field we'll go now. The Bobcats headed to Boston College to take on the Eagles of the ACC. It was Blake DeCarr who got the start on the mound, but he didn't last long. He allowed 7 in just 3 innings. The Bobcats weren't able to climb out of that hole. They managed 5 runs on 10 hits, not bad, but the pitchers did get knocked around. Boston College pushed across 11 runs on 13 hits, handing the Bobcats the midweek loss.
The Bobcats continued their out-of-conference road trip with a stop in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the home of my beloved Flyers and Sixers, to take on the LaSalle Explorers. The Bobcats lost the first game 18-8, but played much better over games 2 and 3. The Explorers took game 2 by a 2-1 score in a pitcher's duel, but the Bobcats struck back on Sunday to the tune of a 12-0 victory. Catcher Colton Bender, a Buster Posey Award nominee, had 2 hits in the game and 4 runs batted in, while 4 pitchers combined to toss the shutout. After this weekend, the baseball team is still tied for first in the MAAC, but are they contenders or pretenders? Let's bring our baseball beat reporter, Kevin Higgins, to the show for some hard-hitting analysis. Kevin, a pleasure to have you aboard tonight.
Always a pleasure to be here, guys.
All right, Kevin, so hit me with it. Who are your contenders in the MAAC? Give me 3.
Okay, so this is going to be a little rapid fire. It's a little quick. So first, Quinnipiac. I think, listen, I was harsh on them last week, but they really are a top contender in this league. I think the second best team in the league. Andre Marrero and Evan Volgamore have been outstanding. OPS is of about 900. Colton Bender, Ian Osberg, Kevin Husher, they've all been great as well. But the pitching is still rough for me, and that's why I have them as a contender rather than a favorite. Now, second contender, I have Manhattan. This is a surprise. A middling team last year riding a 7-game MAAC winning streak. Only one player on the team is batting above 285. The staff as a whole has a 5 ERA in MAAC play. The stats are just average overall as a team. How are they doing it? I have no idea. I've looked at their schedule, and they're just winning every type of game they're playing. They score 2, they allow 1. They allow 7, they score 10. They're doing enough on a daily basis to win every game, and I don't think that should be overlooked. It's not just luck or bad bounces. This is a team that knows how to win in many different ways, and I'm interested to see how they handle the stretch. Now, final contender, to me, this is the favorite. The Canisius Golden Griffs, defending MAAC champs, haven't missed a step so far this year. Tied for the most wins in the MAAC, most runs in the conference, most total bases, second most hits, second most homers. The list goes on. If there's one thing that's going to stop them, though, it's the lackluster numbers on the mound. Team ERA of about 5.8. Opponents are batting 280 against them. That's no good. So I think if anything is their Achilles heel, that's it, the pitching. But to me, I think they'll correct it, and I have them as my overall favorite.
Well, Kevin, Quinnipiac yet to play Manhattan. That comes later in May. They've also lost 2 out of 3 to Canisius. But give me some pretenders in the MAAC, the teams that these guys don't have to worry about.
Well, I think the number one pretender to me, this is a really tough one, Fairfield. Fairfield can hit so well, and there's a really good chance that this pick looks really bad in a few weeks. They've been a pleasant surprise, leading the conference in ERA and batting average. Jack Gethings is challenging Ted Williams with a godlike 396 average. Austin Pope has been great, but I really have them here. It was very close, but just a lack of important experience and resume. This is almost the same team from last year's 9-14 squad in the MAAC, and I know every year is new, hope springs eternal, all that, but I find it hard to believe that the same 2018 mediocre squad is going to be able to continue this exceptional stretch of play this year, but I could be very, very wrong. Second pretender, Marist. Another solid team, but they're not really going to win it all. 5-4 in MAAC play. They hit 280 as a team, which is good. Frankie Gregory has hit 9 homers, but the rest of the team is average. I expect them to finish about 500, just a middling team, maybe a tournament win or 2, but nothing too serious. Now, also, the third pretender I had, it was Fairfield. And Fairfield was, Marist. Marist was another tough pick, and I actually just said Marist, so the third one was Fairfield. These teams overall, they've been good in MAAC play, but I don't see them, or this is Monmouth rather, and here's the deal for Monmouth, as I messed up here. Their season can be summed up in 5 words. I'll make this quick. They lost to St. Peter's. That is it. If you lose to St. Peter's, you are not a contender. Plain and simple. I don't care that I messed up the graphics. Monmouth's not a contender. They're a pretender. Plain and simple. They're not here to win this year.
Kevin, now resounding words of confidence in Quinnipiac, but you alluded to this earlier. You went on Bobcat Breakdown last week and you stirred the pot a little bit with your take on the team's pitching. Let's take a look.
I'm also going to go with the pitching here. Andrew Workman has been awesome, and Bubba Correa has also been good. Tyler Poulin seems to have finally found his command, but everyone else, they've performed mediocre to below average. Besides those 3, Workman, Correa, and Poulin, the staff ERA is 7.73. That is not a below average number. That is not a mediocre number. That is not what I would even consider to be a bad number. That is straight up awful. A 7.7 ERA outside of those 3 guys. Pitching is definitely the reason that this team hasn't really had, I don't think, the best of starts.
So, Kevin, congratulations, because you inspired this week's Sports Paws Twitter poll. We asked, what grade do you give the pitching staff for their performance this season? And here are the results. We graded A, B, C, or D. There you have it. Almost no A's, I think, fittingly, right? Almost no D's, but I think just almost as fittingly. Most votes lying in between B and C. Tom, what do you think? Do you agree with that?
I do agree with it. I mean, D would be too harsh, I think, for this team, unlike what Kevin said last week. I think an A, you can't quite go with that, but, solid B, C with, a lot more MAAC play still to go. Kevin, do you still stand by what you said, though?
Yes, I mean, I'm a journalist, okay? I'm not going to just backtrack here. I was harsh on them last week, but it's only because I think they have so much potential as a squad. I watch these guys pitch, and I say to myself, I can see these guys willing this team and helping this offense to a MAAC championship. The team's ERA is 5.56. That's not good, okay? I mean, I know it's college. It's not good. That's not a great ERA, and I think these guys can be so much better. Tyler Poulin can be better than he is, even though he's already been good. Chris Evans, Christian Nicolosi, good pitchers. They can be better, and I think they would tell you that too. This is an uber-talented group that I do believe will turn it around at some point this year. But so far, it's just been mediocre. So for me, I would give them a C-.
Thank you, Kevin. We know he's a harsh grader. Glad he's not grading our papers. But we're rounding third and heading home here on Sports Paws. First, though, some updates from men's and women's tennis.
And, of course, we'll have the top 5 plays of the week. It'll be a lot of fun. And we all know Tom loves fun. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the WQAQ Morning Show. Dan Ball and Emma Spagnuolo joining you here from the QAQ studios in Hamden. And Emma, it is that time of year again.
Thanks for sticking with us on Sports Paws. We'll continue to break down the Bobcats, starting with the track and field team. They headed to Central Jersey this past weekend to compete in the Ryder Invitational. Kate Gahorski won the 5,000-meter race, Emily Drizgula finished third in the javelin throw, and the Bobcats relay team finished second in the 4x800-meter relay.
Where'd they travel to, Tom?
Central Jersey, man. It's the middle of the state. It's where I hail from.
Hope they got back okay. I never heard of that place. The winner of the Hobie Baker Award was announced this past week. The award went to, tell me if this sounds familiar, a very talented two-way defenseman. Okay.
Check.
A team that led his team to the top 5 in the USCHO ranking. Okay.
Sounds good.
And also to an NCAA tournament spot. Wasn't Chase Prisky. It was Cale McCarr, the defenseman from UMass. He put up 16 goals and 33 assists in 41 games while anchoring a top 5 defense in terms of both goals allowed per game and the penalty kill. The road doesn't stop here for McCarr, though. He's headed to Denver, Colorado, actually, to join the Avalanche in their first-round postseason series against the Calgary Flames. So, Calgary Flames, a quick turnaround for McCarr. The Richter Award was also handed out this week to the best college goaltender, and it was given to Northeastern's Caden Primo. The Huskies went from one of the worst defenses in college hockey to one of the best, and at the center of that was Primo. A .933 save percentage and a .209 goals allowed average transformed Northeastern into a top 10 defense, making Primo a worthy recipient of the Richter Award.
A familiar foe took home NCAA men's ice hockey's top prize this past weekend as the University of Minnesota Duluth Bulldogs topped the UMass Minutemen 3-0 to win their second straight national championship. The Bulldogs eliminated the Bobcats in the second round of the NCAA tournament in Allentown before beating the Providence Friars and ultimately UMass to complete the New England area sweep en route to the title. And although the Bobcats fell a little bit short this year, some of their alumni are thriving under the national spotlight. The NHL playoffs are off to a rousing start, and several teams have been helped by Quinnipiac rookies. Defenseman Devon Taves has picked up 2 assists for the New York Islanders, who lead the Penguins 3-0, while defenseman Connor Clifton played in the Boston Bruins' first 2 playoff games before missing Game 3 with injury. Both defensemen left a huge impact behind in Hamden and have become the first Bobcats to play in the NHL postseason.
All right, Tom, we've reached everybody's favorite part of the show. It's time for the top 5 plays. So what do you say? You take the odds, I'll take the evens.
Works for me. Let's go. All right, first play here, we're going to take it with men's lacrosse. And I think you saw this play earlier, but it's worth looking at again. Mike Fletcher hammers this shot past the goalie to score the goal, tying the game up at 8. Big goal early on in the game for the Bobcats to get back into it.
All right, play number 4. We'll stick with the same game. It's Michael Smith getting by the QU defenders and finding Jojo Pareka. Great shot past the goalie. And we've got a little more from this game coming up.
Play number 3, branching outside of Quinnipiac here, the men's hockey NCAA title game. Watch this play by Parker McKay. Nice move to get his shot past the goaltender. Here's a couple of different angles looking at this play. Watch the backhand here from McKay, just over the shoulder of the goaltender. UMD would go on to beat UMass 3-0 and win the national championship for the second straight year.
All right, number 2, also known as Where Tom Ranks on today's Sports Paws host. James Lyons faking the shot and bounces the ball from the ground, gets it past the goalie, barred down into the top net. Here's when we'll look at the play. QU, third play from this game in the top 5. QU would go on to win this one. Lose this one 12-8.
Play number 1, read by your favorite host. Alexandra Ricos here for women's lacrosse scores the 6th unanswered goal for the Saints. Sweet behind the back shot. That beats Allie Kelsey. Watch this again in slow-mo. Behind the back, no look. That's in the back of the net. Huge goal for Kelsey, and that was the deciding goal for the Saints.
All right, well, Tom, we're almost at the end of our show, but first, Josh Silverman and Brian Schwartz had the chance to sit down with women's basketball assistant coach Brian Wilson. Let's take a look.
Brian Wilson, Quinnipiac women's basketball assistant coach.
So he's Brian Schwartz, I'm Josh Silverman. We'll get to know you a little bit. First question, how did you get into coaching?
So I was a practice player I was an undergraduate at the University of Virginia, and I had a friend who was a manager for the women's team, and they were looking for some guys to practice against, which is very common practice now. And so I did that just as something fun to do, and fell in love with it. Got to be part of a team, got to know the coaches and kind of the inner workings behind practice planning and game prep and things like that.
So this was your first year as an assistant coach at Quinnipiac. Before that, you were the head coach at Connecticut College. What made you interested in moving from Connecticut College to Quinnipiac?
Yeah, so I loved my job at Connecticut College, and that was a program that we really, when I got there, it was at the bottom of the NESCAC, and we really built it into something I'd like to think was pretty special, and we were very happy there. I think the opportunity that Quinnipiac presented to be working with Coach Fabry and just the ability to hopefully grow and learn from her and bring some of my experiences from Connecticut College and add something new here was just a really, it wasn't about like, hey, I want to be D1 or anything like that. It was specific to Quinnipiac and to Coach Fabry. This was a program I was familiar with. I used to come up and watch practice or workouts when I was at Con College just to pick up some ideas and some new drills and things like that. So she was someone I was familiar with. I knew Mountain McGilvery very well. We came to games, we followed the team. So there was certainly a comfort level, and I just felt like with where this program was and where they aspired to continue to go, it was too good to pass up.
You talked about Coach Fabry and how your relationship kind of with her has developed over this last year and becoming more comfortable with her. How was it to work with her this year, your first season?
It was tremendous. I learned first. I just learned a ton. Like I remember, probably after the first or second workout in the fall, going up to her and be like, "Oh my gosh, if I had done half of this stuff at Connecticut College, we would have been so much better there." But just, her competitiveness and the way that she has kind of built practice and our practice plans around competing, I've just taken so much from that. I've grown over the course of this year, and just how direct she is. Like, a lot of coaches are afraid to hurt feelings, or they kind of want to tiptoe around issues so they don't upset the apple cart. And she's just in a place where she can, whether it's to a staff member or it's one of our players, it's like, hey, this is the issue I see. Here's what needs to happen moving forward. And that alleviates so much.
Some good stuff there from our basketball beat team, and thanks again to Brian Wilson for sitting down to chat.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for tonight's show, but Tom, it's been a blast.
I wouldn't want you to make your Sports Paws debut with anybody else, but good stuff. But, it's time to say goodbye. Be sure to follow Q30 Sports on Twitter for the latest on Quinnipiac Athletics.
And be sure to check out our website at q30tv.com for even more content. For Tom Krosnowski, I'm Will Fowler. Have a great night.